What was your perception of that concept, neurodivergence, before we talked?
Um, I only understood it in extremes. So
Okay.
if you were autistic or 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 something of that nature, right? I didn't understand. What you helped me understand was the subtleties, right? That um, no, I'm not crazy because I don't like bright lights. No, I'm not crazy because loud noises disturb me. Just throw my senses into a tizzy. No, I'm not crazy because I get low, I get depressed, or and I'm not, and there's not something not crazy. There's not something wrong with me, right? There's not something wrong with me for having these sensitivities. But when you grow up your entire life being told there's something wrong with you, yet nobody offers a solution, what do? Right? You survive.
Okay, so you did mention the two of us having ADHD,
Mhm.
and we're both in therapy. Obviously, I don't think we'd be having this chat if we weren't. Um, for me, generational trauma, funny enough, did not come through therapy.
Hmm.
It came through doing genealogy, during doing family history.
Mhm.
I found that I had like a lot of epiphanies actually. Um, so a little on my backstory because I don't think many people know it. I originally studied. I originally studied human nature, also known as anthropology, and then I went on to study. Well, before that, I actually studied political science and Latin American history, specifically looking at coups, right?
Hmm.
Kind of the times right now. And then went on to study human nature, went on to study human language, linguistics, and then went on to merge the two and got my degree in linguistic anthropology, which is like a really hyper specific field of study that allows me to see the world through like peacocking.
Okay.
That's the way I think of it. It's like a whole lot of peacocking and a whole lot of people trying to put other people into categories.
Hmm.
That would be the anthro side. The peacocking is more like how do we communicate in more than just words? I
Sure.
think that's the bigger thing is that in linguistics we kind of focus a lot on like sounds and sentences and things like that. But there's a lot of like nonverbal that linguistic anthropology focuses on.
What do you mean
The intersection
when you say nonverbal?
between.
Uh, are you talking about um, mannerisms when a person speaks, or okay,
It could be,
okay.
but it's more like the way your actions can say a lot about your culture and can communicate a lot of things.
Got it.
So in anthropology, specifically in cultural anthropology, um, we do like modern times, right? We do a lot of studying of other anthropologists and looking at their field work and
Hmm.
looking at their ethnographies and seeing how they determine certain cultures through certain lenses, right? And so sometimes you can really get a good feel for a society based on the things that they do because it actually communicates certain things. So, like, for example, I'll never forget the study of the Sudan and South Sudan was one of the cultures that we had studied in my cultural anthro class. And it was very interesting to see how they were cattle farmers, nomadic cattle farmers. So they went with the rain. They went back and forth with the rain, and their cows basically took them to where they were going to go next, because the cows knew where the heck the water was,
Hmm.
and so they had to chase the cows because it was like the cows eat great, the cows produce milk in the spring, right? So it was interesting about the Sudanese population, at least at that time. This was around the time of British colonization, and before that had been Arab colonization, actually. And so what was interesting was that some of their the way that they named each other was actually, you got named after your cow.
Really?
And yes. And so when we bring that into present day and we remove the cows, what do they name themselves after if they don't cattle ranch anymore? Because it was so central to their culture. So how does this relate to what I was just talking about, generational trauma, and like learning about that outside of therapy? Was that I think my first foray with generational anything
Hmm.
was was like learning about this group and how, yeah, their relationship to the earth determined like how they like pictured a calendar in their head, how they pictured time, how they studied everything, and including how they named themselves. And so when you get into post-settling, post-colonization society, well, then how do they function? And what happened was the cow was replaced with rifles.
Oh.
And yeah, so that is a fascinating, I think that's just one group that could be studied that's really fascinating in terms of language and culture, but also generational, like things that you pass down through generations, because that was just such that was, how do I put it? That was something that was just so core to their society that it's almost like it's not almost like, they literally had to pivot 180 with a loss of their livelihood.
Right.
And that happened to a lot of cultures around the world.
Right.
And you see a lot of cultures really break down into chaos and dysfunction when they suddenly have to deal with this big, giant change. And that leads me to what you said when your mother, my grandmother, was the first generation born in Spanish Harlem in New York City, coming from a farming community, right? This giant change, giant chaos, giant everything, and it has a huge impact on someone's psyche, on someone's behavior, and how they deal with the world. And I'm sure that her parents were also dealing with quite a bit of trauma, having left the coziness, the comfort and stability of what they knew for something totally different, like winter, like something as simple as winter.
Agreed.
Or like concrete and coal. Like, why would they ever have to deal with coal before that, right? So there's all these different things, and that really informed me, because when I started doing family history, I ended up realizing I can't do family history if I don't know the context of the people I'm researching. To me, it's literally the same as doing anthropology. If anything, it's just a different field work.
Sure.
Right. And so that's my origin story on generational trauma, was looking at the family tree and thinking, oh my gosh, this reminds me of the Nur in Sudan, the Nur people in Sudan, the N-U-E-R people of Sudan. And that was just wild. Like
That's an incredible story.
It was this epiphany. I wish more people would go into anthropology. I feel like it's just, I think it's really just a lot of people on the spectrum go into anthropology because we want to know more about the human condition, because we don't understand it. And we need to figure it out.
I could agree with that.
Yeah.
I
And
could
so
agree with
that's
that.
my transition into neurodivergence with you. Um, tell me a little bit about like your exploration. How did you find yourself in this space that I know you love that word, neurodivergence?
I
I'm just
do.
gonna say that the whole the whole show.
Yeah, before I started talking to you, it was like, oh, that's just a cop out. Um, but kind of like how you told
Go
us,
on.
it's kind of like how you told the story about the Sudanese people, right? After you brought it up and we started talking about it, I journal quite a bit, and I started looking at my journal in some of my therapy sessions, and I said, wait a minute, there's something to what Alexis is saying. Let me take a little, further look into this
Hmm.
because I was strictly no such thing as neurodivergence.
What was your perception of that concept, neurodivergence, before we talked?
Um, I only understood it in extremes. So
Okay.
if you were autistic or 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 something of that nature, right? I didn't understand. What you helped me understand was the subtleties, right? Um, and so after I spoke to you and I started looking into it, and I remembered very young, I was diagnosed as hyper intelligent.
Hmm.
So I just kind of took that and ran with it, right? I didn't pay any attention to it until you brought up neurodivergent, and I started looking into it, and I was like, oh boy. Um, we as hyper intelligent people, we show uh, like how you say on the spectrum, and
Hmm.
we show traits that are very similar, if not the same.
Yes, they're the same.
That's me still, trying hard to not, I don't know. Um, but once I came to understand that, um, no, I'm not crazy because I don't like bright lights. No, I'm not crazy because loud noises disturb me. Just throw my senses into a tizzy. No, I'm not crazy because I get low, I get depressed,
Mm.
or and I'm not, and there's not something not crazy. There's not something wrong with me,
Yes.
right? There's not something wrong with me for having these sensitivities. But
Hmm.
when you grow up your entire life being told there's something wrong with you,
Hmm.
yet nobody offers a solution,
Hmm.
what do? Right? You
Hmm.
survive. And the way you survive is kind of like how Italian families do. Oh, we don't talk about that,
Yep.
right? So after speaking to you and realizing and looking at my journal, looking at my habits, talking about this in therapy, I was like, all right, I'm sold.
Oh, wow.
Um, but what's great about it is I look at it as this awakening,
Hmm.
right? It's like, hey, this is pretty cool. Right? And it's a great understanding, of my healing path, right?
Hmm.
And understanding myself and understanding going back to generational stuff. My parents had no idea this stuff.
Hmm.
How did your parents handle somebody like you? And how did my parents handle somebody like me? They didn't.
Yep.
Right? Right? So they did the best they could. That's me being compassionate. Um, but it's a thing. It's a real thing. And I think you're right. I think you're absolutely spot on that there are more people who are on the spectrum or are neurodivergent, than society realizes.
Oh yeah, you see headlines like that, like, or at least thumbnails. I'm always on YouTube and I see lots of thumbnails of everybody has ADHD. Yes, everybody has
Yeah, of
ADHD.
course. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it
not
just we just
everybody.
didn't know how to identify it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not an eologist at all. Um, there are so many things you could say that contribute to it, right? That are outside of generational stuff. Um,
Hmm.
but it's an acceptable. No, I don't mean to say acceptable. It's a inevitable. Um, it's an inevitable acceptance that we have to adopt, and
Mm-hmm.
and there is no uh, uh, medicate them, and that's the solution.
Mm.
And as someone who grew up with one person in the family saying therapy is for crazy people, and another person saying, therapy is supposed to help you, but only in the way I decide how it's going to help you,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
right? Um, realizing that realizing that the only solution you can prove is the only solution you can survive with is nah, it doesn't exist. It's a cop
Yep.
out,
Yep.
and I was so wrong.
So then apparently you were in the therapy algorithm, but not the neurodivergent algorithm?
Correct.
That's wild. See, okay, so that's going to point me into my origin story. YouTube told me I was autistic. And I was just like, no way. I
Hmm.
get this YouTube video. It's of this really, really, really young woman. I think she was like not even 19. And she was talking about how she lives. No. How she organizes her house and adapts it for the autistic life. And I'm like, okay. I click on it and I watch, and I'm like, I like this. I was like, ooh, I want to live where she lives. She had so many adaptive, like organizational systems, like melamine plates and like and utensils so that they would be soft when you put them away. So you wouldn't have that awful like scrapey
Hmm.
sound when you put things away. And like her mother, she lived on her own, but her mother didn't live far, and so her mother would check up on her, announced, of course, to make sure that like she was doing okay, so that when she was in her lows, she wasn't without support.
Sure.
But she didn't need to go out and scream it like, oh, I need help. It was like her support was always there for her, and I was just like,
That's amazing.
maybe I'm a little, I was like, oh, maybe I'm a little autistic. And then so like YouTube sent me more videos after that, and more videos. And I'm watching, and there was something about them I couldn't relate to, especially this notion of routine. I could relate to the sensory. The sensory was like up here, 2000, and I was just like, oof. The sensory, that's a thing. Like tags, I only wear tagless clothing. I
Hmm.
only wear clothing that I can like. I know when I really like the clothing because I'll try it on and I'm like, I want to wear it out the store. That's how I know I like the clothing. And I know not to buy clothing that is uncomfortable even when I'm trying it on. That's how bad my sensory is, right? Yeah, relatable. And so,
If it doesn't feel good up against my face, I'm not wearing it.
oh yeah, and I do the inner wrist
Hmm.
actually because it's very soft. And so, yeah, so I kept watching video after video, and I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't remind me of me. This reminds me of my partner. And so I sent him a couple of them, and he's like, I'm not convinced. Like, he was like, you're right. He was like, I'm not convinced. And then he gets to one video in which he was like,
Ooh,
oh.
this one hit home.
Yeah, he was like, oh. Okay, maybe that one's me. And then I ended up getting uh, loading up a video where it was like, oh, I'm ADHD, autistic ADHD. I watched that and I was just like, relate, like I was relating a little bit more. So like I was on the spectrum of, like I was like, oh, ADHD, huh? Like I never thought of that. That was not on my bingo card. And then next thing you know, YouTube was like, oh, YouTube was made for ADHD. Here's your rabbit hole. And that's a rabbit hole it took me years to climb out of. That was 2021,
Okay.
the first ever autistic video, and it's 2025. And I have finally climbed out of the ADHD rabbit hole, although YouTube sent me a thumbnail yesterday with ADHD in it. I was like, not today, Satan. Not happening. I need to focus.
Not
I have
today,
to edit
Satan.
videos. I cannot do this right now. Like,
Oh
this video
yeah.
is taking too long to edit. And so that was my rabbit hole. And I ended up taking it to therapy and saying, like, so maybe, and the therapist was like, oh, honey, you're so cute. This is just a formality. And I was just like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And then as far as being on the spectrum, yeah, it's like 30% spectrum, 70% ADHD. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I not only do I see a therapist, I also see a psychologist.
Mm,
I'm terrified for her to test me, right? I'm just
mm,
go through any formal testing.
mm-hmm.
Um, I just, yeah, I know I am. I'm good with it. I'm happy as I am, and I'm okay. I'm okay. Um,
Good for you. Yeah.
and now it
That's
explains.
progress right there.
Yeah, you helped me with this, right? Because I was always of a mind of it's cop out, you know.
Mm.
So yeah,
That's interesting. I think in the end, I think what's important is that we own the label and that the label doesn't own us.
agreed,
Every single group that's marginalized has got to take ownership at some point or another.
agreed.
Um, and I think that in the end, unless you really, really need the diagnosis for, disability or whatever, like in Europe, for example, you do need the diagnosis,
Really?
which is why there's a wait list on, like if you want to get accommodations at work, for example, or if you want to get like special funding, basically you need a rubber stamp it.
Okay.
But if you don't need a rubber stamp it here in the States, yeah, like it can be hard for a lot of people. Um,
I've worked in
I
technology ever
think,
since I was 19. I've been surrounded by people who are on the spectrum and have ADHD, OCD, you name it, anything three-letter acronym. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
oh, same, yeah. Fitting in versus belonging. First time ever, I felt like, wow, I could finally fit in here was like an anthropology.
Hmm.
Like they were my tribe, they were my
I
people,
remember you telling me
literally my
this.
tribe.
Yeah.
And not even in genealogy did I ever feel that way. Because in genealogy, we're all like, we purposefully do not want to work with other people. Like,
Hmm.
like genealogists don't mind going to like a luncheon or like roots tech, but just leave us alone. Just let us hyper focus on our work, right? Um, and so for me, actually, I feel like the only other 30% to my spectrum was actually as a kid. And I just want to go back to what you were saying about like your survival mode, because that really resonated. There was nothing about survival for us, like compared vis-a-vis some people in some parts of the world where like it's legit just trying to survive,
Agreed.
right? Um, for us, it was emotional survival, psychological survival, right? It's a whole other war that we're dealing with as kids in the States. And so, yeah, when I was tested for ADHD, I was tested like 3 times because I was on meds. So to get on my meds, I had to get tested again. Like they wanted to triple check that I was like legit, like not asking for stuff so I could sell it. When I did the initial test, it was just to diagnose what type. And they were like, okay, now we know what type you have. And then the second time I was tested, it was just, oh yeah, it was in my doctor's office simply to record it because they hadn't gotten it from my therapist. So anyway, what was interesting though was each time they tested, they go back to saying, the only way we can test for either autism or ADHD is actually to ask you about your childhood. Because technically neurodivergent disorders are tested with criteria for children. So you have to hope that your memory is intact and you can remember your childhood. And it's like, how could you not? If you're a neurodivergent, how can you not freaking remember that childhood? It is like the one thing we're trying to shove into a closet that won't close. Like,
I remember the clothes I wore to the first day of school at kindergarten.
oh gosh, kindergarten was tough, no?
For me, it was, yeah, it was tough. It was tough. Um, so when you realize, well, let me rephrase that. Um, how does your ADHD manifest for you? I mean, how does it,
Oh,
give me like a for
okay.
instance.
So, oh man, I have it down to a science.
You told me the
And
thing about the socks,
unmedicated?
the folding the socks.
Okay, so like unmedicated, yeah, unmedicated, like for example, when I was in therapy, and I switched therapists, my ADHD therapist had moved on to a different practice. So I got a new therapist and she was like, "Well, I don't know much about ADHD, but let's work on it." She's like, "Let's figure it out together."
What
And
am I
she was
paying you
like, "Tell
for?
me what it's."
Sorry.
She was like, "Tell me about a typical day," right? Well, that wasn't her niche. Her specialty was actually trauma, and little did I know that she was the right therapist for me. So she's like, "Tell me about a typical day," and I thought to myself, "I'm gonna make something up." I swear to good, I swear to goodness. I thought, okay, I'll just think of a random day last week. And I did. I just picked a day randomly from the prior week and I used that as my day. And then after many, 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 many weeks with her, I started to workshop my own ADHD on my own, and I realized I told her in session like I don't have a routine. Remember when I was telling you about my typical day? That's hogwash. Like I'm lucky if I can even get up on time. You know what makes me get up on time? Freaking a
Mm,
meeting. If I have a meeting at 10 a.m., my butt is out bed by like 9:30 the latest because I don't want to be that person in a meeting at like 9:59 and I'm in bed. And yeah, if that isn't ADHD, I don't know what is. That it could also be depression. So, how does it manifest for me? Really by feeling stuck, by having the least amount of motivation for anything except for like shopping, honestly. Uh, so, like routines, like non existent. Um, Executive function for me functions on discomfort. Washing my hands all the time because I cannot stand that sticky feeling on my
mm,
palms. Washing my hair all the time because my hair just feels
mm.
weird, you know? And I think that that's really relatable for a lot of people. The executive function only functioning when you're uncomfortable. And then the other part of it is just trying to find the fun in the most awful of tasks, like laundry. Like for me, doing laundry is a game, and I have to be in it to win it. If my mind isn't in competition, I'm not doing laundry. I will do it when I feel like competing against myself. How quickly can I hear the buzzer go off and put the laundry in the dryer? How quickly from the dryer can I get everything folded? How quickly can I do all the black socks, then the white socks, then the gray socks? I swear to goodness. And you have, like, my advice, my suggestion is do the smallest, lowest hanging fruit, work your way up to the big one. Because you start, like, your sister, my mom, her advice for homework will get the big thing out of the way. Oh, there is a YouTube, there is a therapist on YouTube. He's a psychiatrist. He's famous. He's called Dr. K. He's famous for his live streams. He's famous for helping people get through their issues through live streaming, that's how he captures men and he gets young men into
Mm,
therapy. Is like, you got to go where they are. You can't get them to
mm,
go to therapy. They're not going to go to therapy. Bring the therapy to the
mm.
live stream. He has this wonderful video in which he talks about high achievers, people like you. Well, not necessarily people like you, but people more like my mom, who the way they got through their ADHD was by completely like overclocking their RAM.
Oh, that's me.
Where, there you go. High achievers. I'm like the least high achieving ever. Like, I was competing over how much could I play and get the lowest score. I didn't give that much of a crap. Like, no. Because I saw mom and I saw grandma and I was like, not today, Satan. Like, this is not me. I knew that this was not me. I was too freaking lazy for any of that nonsense. Like, my emotions were just too fragile for the right, because I got like Catholic dad, non-Catholic mom, just like you, and like you said, remember how you were like, oh, the way to deal with it was the Italian, like, we just don't talk about it.
Hmm.
Same. I just defaulted to the Catholic way of doing things, which was like, our we're not fated to be like this, right? Like, you ever notice that some Catholic families are like, we're not lawyers, we're bus
Mm.
drivers. You know what I mean? Like, some families are just like that, and that was me at like 10
Yep.
years old. Like,
Yeah.
nope.
The overachieving thing. Boy, you hit the nail on the head, boy. Wow. Yeah. That was the only
Yeah.
way I could make it. Yeah. Yeah. And it's your own private hell.
It's
It's
exhausting.
uh, you're an overachiever. I've always been. I had no choice. Um, you're an overachiever, but like you said, you're this sensitive creature, and you you have to deny who you are, and let this compulsion drive you. And and you're right. It's exhausting. It's maddening. That's why we have migraines, right? They took a gallbladder. All right, I'm waiting for the next organ for them to take, right? It's why our bodies reject it,
Same.
right? It's
Oh yeah.
not who we are. And when I finally realized I'm not too much, I am totally okay with who I am. And like how you said, make a game of it, make a joke of it. It just becomes more self-accepting. And I'm like, all right, I'm cool with this.
How much like dark humor is in this side of the family? And I think I it's like right here as we're talking, I'm just realizing why. We've got like some really dark humor
You
in
should have
our
heard some of the stuff your
family.
grandmother would come up with. Whew. And she loved Britcoms. And if you want dark humor, that's in Britcoms, boy. Yeah, and that rubbed off on me, right? Monty Python,
Same.
Benny Hill,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, what was the other one? At your service, who you are something serving. Um, that all of that rubbed off on me. And so yeah, there's tons of dark humor and sarcasm. Oh my goodness. Sarcasm in our family was wielded like a dragon blade. It was just woof. And it wasn't until later on I realized that sarcasm is just another form of anger. And it's a misdirected form of anger. And I stopped with the sarcasm because I grew up a very angry young man.
Mm.
So yeah, My mother can still, she wielded sarcasm like a scalpel. Your uncle too,
Yep. Yep.
my
Oh
brother.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh wow. Did you ever not actually understand sarcasm growing up? Did you ever have like a Sheldon moment?
For me, I never really, not even growing up, um, well into late in life. Um, I never really truly understood sarcasm because I was always seeking validation. So if somebody was being sarcastic with me, my immediate response, what did I do wrong?
Yes.
Right? And when I finally understood that sarcasm is redirected anger, when people are sarcastic with me, now I ask, what are you angry about? Jefferson Fisher
That's pretty brave.
Jefferson Fisher writes an excellent book on this type of communication. And he's great on IG. And that's one of his responses when somebody goes to you and is being sarcastic. Why are you angry at me? And it usually shuts him down, right? You'll never really figure out why they're sarcastic. But as long as you understand that when somebody is sarcastic with you, that's redirected anger. It may have absolutely nothing to do with you. It may be them being angry at something their mom did and you triggered them, right? But it's redirected anger. Does,
Is it consistently redirected anger? Because I feel like some people just do it because it gets a laugh. I think it's also like a from my socio background. I've noticed sarcasm used to lighten a mood, lighten a conversation. Um,
I, I think
in some
I think if
instances,
sarcasm is used in a general context and not a personalized context, you're absolutely right,
yeah.
right? So if a comedian is using sarcasm on stage and talking about, men or women or something like that, and he's being sarcastic about it, it'll grab a laugh because it's not personalized unless he directs it at himself or herself, right?
Oh, that would be that Britcom sarcasm.
Bingo, right? But they say the best comedians are the ones who are the manic depressives, right?
Oh yes, can
Mhm.
confirm. Yeah.
So it's sarcasm is it's a touchy one for me, for me.
Yeah, that's interesting because I always wondered about why it was that like I was just so sensitive about sarcasm. And like when I watched Big Bang Theory, there was something about Sheldon's like misunderstanding of sarcasm that really resonated. Like there was almost nothing else besides his love of trains and his misunderstanding of sarcasm. Um,
There's an
like for
innocence to it.
example, I live with yeah, like the French, they use a lot of sarcasm. It's called second degree humor. But it's done in a way that's so subtle. I often find myself asking sarcasm or like for real because I don't understand. And I found that I'm comfortable now asking sarcasm or for real because like I just want to get through the conversation. I don't want to have to explain that I don't understand sarcasm. But now I have more context as for like why that might be. You know?
That's interesting. Uh, You know, I've always struggled um, with social cues, right? And understanding them or misunderstanding them And that's why I loathe texting. I don't know how to figure it out. What are you trying to say? Right? So like flirting, right? If somebody was flirting with me, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Or if somebody was being kind or so, that I pick up. But the subtleties of social cues, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So like when you talk,
For anybody out there watching, tell me you're on the spectrum without telling me you're on the
yeah,
spectrum.
exactly. Guilty
Yeah,
as
yeah.
charged.
So, yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. For women, I don't know where I'd be today if I didn't pick up on social cues. I don't think, yeah, I think that life would have been much, 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 much more difficult for me. But I did pick it up eventually. So, yeah, I would say before high school, definitely
Hmm.
relate. No, like, had zero sense of social cues, no idea whatsoever. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sure there were plenty of people out there inviting me to sleepovers, and I had no idea. Like, you didn't spell it out. It wasn't
Yeah,
clear.
me.
Compute did not compute.
Alexis, I'm 59 years old. I still don't get it sometimes. I just don't. And I've accepted it. And now I just ask, what do you mean by that? What are you trying to say? Because I don't know.
Yeah. Anything else from your dad's side of the family that you think affected you in any way?
Phew. Um, well, starting off with, I was named the third Joseph, right? So there, no legacy to live up to there. Um, it on my father's side of the family, growing up with on my father's side of the family, I was uh, spoiled. That's the only way to say it, right? And the typical Italian thing, spoiling the grandson, right? And after a while, after a time, you start becoming cognizant of some things that are not right, right? For instance, when I visit my grandparents, my aunt, who lived with them, would never come out of her room, right?
Okay.
So I never put, I just thought that's how she was, right? But as I've told you many times, my grandfather was physically abusive. So every time I went to visit my grandparents, there was always this low fog of discomfort, you know? And as it turns out, there was some stuff that happened. Um, I think for me, uh, my father, not my grandparents, my father was the biggest um, influence on me. And when you see him, like everybody always does, the first thing you think is he's mobbed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just him growing up in the Bronx, right? But and then the second thing you always look at him is to say, I'm not messing with him, right? But my father indirectly instilled in me a sense of gentleness because he protected his mother, he protected his sisters. I didn't find this stuff out till later on. My father never hit me, ever. He didn't have to, but there were some things there that were truly old school Italian, right? There were some behaviors and traditions, but my father, he didn't stress any of it. Didn't force me to go to church. Didn't force me to get first communion. All these important Italian, quote unquote, things. He didn't he didn't do it. He didn't do it with me. Right? And he did instill in me this incredible sense of gentleness but strength. And it was something I didn't learn till after he was gone. Yeah. You know, talking about it, he would always say he was proud of me. And as you know, I always make it a point to say when I'm speaking to somebody, um, I always make it a point to say, I love you before I hang up, right? Or talk to them. And I do it with Pop, and he would be like, okay, talk to you later, right? But he would always say things, I'm so proud of you. He would find, other ways. Never doubted my father's love for me, ever. But I never realized how much he loved me, respected me, and trusted me until he died. And when the senior members of the family, my aunt, right, my uncle, uh, they all came in and they said, okay, Mario said nobody's to do anything except Joseph takes care of everything. You just tell us what you want. And that made up for all the I love yous. Yeah. Mom, that's another show.
Yeah, it was.
But the Italian side of my family was traditional, but was dysfunctional.
But I think in that one little anecdote about grandpa, that is the best way of demonstrating the change to the generational trauma. He was not, he picked and chose intent. It sounds like maybe intentionally or maybe subconsciously what he wanted to instill in you.
It was,
It was really, really, really
yeah.
special.
I didn't, I talked earlier about a code.
Mm.
I lost my code for a time there. He taught me it. My mom did too. My mom was very influential in the building of my character. Um, but having rediscovered my code, uh, I realize it's more what mom and dad, the good stuff they laid on me, you know. So I'm grateful.